Hello and welcome to another episode of Fun with Philosophy and Ethics. Today's topic is on changing morality. The individual might feel very strongly about right and wrong, but it's interesting to know that people across different cultures and time periods and geographical locations have all had very different views on morality. Let's take a look at some examples. One example is the value of human life. In times past, human life tended to be viewed very cheaply. It was considered normal to take a life over a disagreement, maybe over a loaf of bread. In order to advance one's position, one might consider taking a life. In modern times, I think the majority of us place much more value on human life. This is an example of how, over time, we as a society have changed our views on right and wrong. Let's look at another example. In ancient Roman culture, it was common practice for a man to take a lover outside of marriage. Society tend to overlook this practice. Whether a man might have a strapping young lad on the battlefield who was his special companion, or whether it might be an affectionately thought of lady of the night. This was all considered to be quite commonplace in that society. Whereas in recent modern times, we tend to think of marriage and relationships as being something sacred, or at least we have in recent times. Now again, we see Generation Z and millennials completely reinventing the way we think of relationships and romantic exchanges. So these are all examples of how the ideas we've had around fidelity and monogamy have changed. I'll give you another example. It's a matriarchal culture in China that has been unique to a certain geographical location, where the women have been the bosses or the leaders of that society. The women have been landowners, and the men have been free to roam and seek their queen or their household leader who would take them into this particular household based on her favor. Now, when this man would come into this household, it would be expected that he would satisfy the matriarch, work on the fields, and do her bidding. If this man or this partner fell out of favor, he would be banished from the household, and then he would have to go out and roam and find another matriarch to take him in. This might all seem to be very bizarre, such practices seeming very distant from what we experience in modern society. However, in that geographic location, in this specific area, this is a common and normal practice. So again, these are examples of how morality can differ from place to place and time period to time period. A third example is animal cruelty. A long time ago, people thought nothing of watching gladiators and beasts fight to the death. They might have pit other animals against each other too, and this was just a normal sport. People found it quite enjoyable to watch this. Today, many animal lovers might be horrified at such activities, and we might say rightly so. However, what we need to remember is that morality changes from person to person, place to place, and time period to time period. In 2011, Science Mag published an article on the quantitative changes in culture. This was research that had been conducted by Jean-Baptiste Michel and others. And the techniques that they used, this one particular technique is called culturomics, where computer software is used to analyze millions of digital books over a period of time to find out whether or not there have been subtle changes in our culture and morality over a long period of time. What they found was fascinating. Indeed, they noticed quite a few changes. One simple example is that we as a society have become much more individualistic. They noticed a downward trend in the use of the word us and an upward trend in the use of the word me. Another change is that words that are typically flagged as being indicators of morality have been steadily declining since the 20th century, though they did notice a rebound in the 1980s. So two different perspectives have come out of this research. One is demoralization and one is remoralization. Demoralization holds the viewpoint that we are becoming more tolerant, we're becoming more scientific, and we're becoming more inclusive. Whereas remoralization, this perspective says that actually we're becoming more polarized, we're becoming more easily offended. We're becoming more censorious, and our political discussions and debates are less nuanced, again, more polarized, and we're becoming more easily offended. I think a good conclusion to draw from all this is that morality does indeed differ from person to person and place to place. The individual in a specific time period thinks that they're right. People 100 years ago thought that their perspective was right, and people 100 years from now will also think that their perspective is right, even though their views on morality and society as a whole may be completely different to what we think is right today. So what can this tell us? It can tell us that maybe we might want to consider broadening our perspective. We might want to consider making space for a multitude of viewpoints, knowing that each individual sees and feels uniquely. Thank you so much for watching. These videos are all about dialogue and discussion. If you have any thoughts or reactions, please let me know in the comments, or you can message me directly. Let's keep the conversation going and let's keep thinking. Take care and bye for now.